BoomPhilly.com. It's Cash at Lovely Lady Cash, and you're chimed in to Real Talk, real conversation with real people, real rap. Today's conversation is entitled The R Word, as April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Joining me for this conversation is a few friends of mine from Drexel University, a friend of mine from DSU, and Women's Organized Against Rape. All right? How y'all feeling today?
Good.
Okay, great. So go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Kendra Bolden.
Hello, my name is Michael Burton.
Wanju Kakaira.
I'm Tyree Evans.
Monique Howard.
Sylvie Duyar.
Before we get into the conversation, I wanted to throw some statistics out there for you guys, okay? So according to National Sexual Violence Resource Center, okay, 1 out of 5 black women will experience rape once in their lifetime. 8 out of 10 victims know the person who committed the assault, and more than 90% of college students 90% of sexual assault victims on college campuses will not report the assault. Okay? So to kick off the conversation, how would you guys define rape?
I think I would define rape as any sexual act that did not come with consent, or I was not able to give my consent for various reasons, or I just did not give my consent to partake in the act.
Yeah, I definitely say any sexual act that lacks consent or the ability for someone to give consent.
Everything that they said, and underage also, because statutory rape.
Rape is anything forceful or anything non-consensual.
Okay, great. So it looks like we all have the understanding of what rape is. Our definitions definitely align. So I'm gonna put us in a few scenarios and ask us a couple questions, and y'all have to tell me, would you consider this to be rape? Yes, no, or maybe, and we'll elaborate on it, okay? All right, so the first one, is covert condom removal considered rape?
No.
Why not? Why not?
I mean, to me, you have to consent to the activity with the condom. So there's a bunch of variables that can go into this. So like if we having sex and the condom pop and I don't know pop and you don't know, is that covert condom removal? It's the same thing. Like one is just accidental, the other one is purposely taking it off.
And with everything that you said, 2 words stood out to me. One was accidental, and the other one was purposeful. And that is what happens with the misunderstanding what consent is. Consent is not accidental, it's purposeful. So you can give it and you can take it. That's why those 2 things could be the same.
Honestly, I think that covert condom removal, I think that it definitely is rape, because when you think about it, you know, before you engage in a sexual activity, you agree to terms and conditions, you know, of that sex with a condom. Covert condom removal is you knowledgeably saying, hey, I'm about to take this condom off while I'm having sex, even though she thinks I have a condom on. In doing that, you change those terms and conditions where she agreed to the first set, but she didn't agree to the second.
Can I jump in real fast? I don't want to say, because let's say that rape is such a harsh term that maybe that's why. Do I feel like that's a bad thing? Yes. Is it an immoral thing? Yes. Is it rape? Like, rape is just such a harsh term to me that I want you, being like in prison systems and knowing what comes with that stigma. When you give somebody that stigma, I want it to be cold-hearted, like that what you perceive in your mind rape is. Not an activity where it was all good just a week ago. Like I don't want that activity with it, because it's just to me we attach it to people who sometimes, like, they accuse Tupac of rape, they accuse Maurice Watson Jr. of rape, like, and just seeing certain things like, wow, like this is kind of harsh. Like, and it wasn't what people think, but because the word is so hypersensitive and glorified in a negative perspective that we take it and run with it, like, oh, that person is a rapist.
The act in itself is harsh.
I have a couple.
Okay.
So this young man, thank you very much. The key words or key terms you use is terms and conditions. And I think that's key. It's key because it leads to the consent piece. And so yes, the sexual activity was consented upon under specific terms and conditions, condom use or non-condom use or what have you. the covert removal of it, there's an intentionality there to cause harm or to change the terms and conditions. Any other time you change terms and conditions of a contract, verbal or written, there's going to be a problem. So think of it as your cellular phone carrier. At the point that you change your conditions of the contract that you have with them, and for me that would be not paying the bill, that means your phone doesn't work anymore. And so there's a consequence to the changing of the terms and conditions.
So Sandy was drunk at the bar. She was eyeing Chris, who was also drunk. These two hook up, and the next day Sandy realized that she had sex. She was intoxicated. She's devastated and regretful. Is that rape?
No.
To me, that's not rape.
Okay.
Only because rape is not a scapegoat for a bad decision.
Right.
And I think that's why we've gotten to, like you were saying, like where it's become so glorified in a way, or so easy to like rape, you know, and that's why I think that's why it's lost its like power, in that this is a serious offense and it needs to be taken seriously, because people are so quick to call rape just because a situation did not go the way that they had intended it to go, or they wake up the next morning and they have regrets. But if she gave her consent, even though she was intoxicated and he was intoxicated as well, waking up the next morning and deciding you didn't want that to happen does not mean that he raped you.
Right. Like how, or vice versa. If she raped him,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't really understand that kind of rape, but again, like as Sandy would be like, "Oh, Chris raped me." Chris could wake up like, "Oh, I was intoxicated too. You raped me." So I get like we often is always on the side of towards the woman, like just like racial profiling exists and prejudice exists, like all these type of things is gray areas involved with this. So for you to wake up and that's a moral decision. You practiced bad responsibility that night and you woke up and was like, oh my God, no, like that's your fault.
On his behalf and on her behalf. So when I say that's your fault, I'm not just catering to her, because we often like to glorify the woman in rape circumstances when the man has just as much right to it as she does.
Right. So let me ask you this: does intoxicated, yes? If I'm intoxicated and I say yes, does that?
And that's
Is that the same thing as me saying yes, being sober?
That's what I wanted to say, because one of the things that how you defined rape earlier on was saying that you have to be able to give consent.
Right.
When you're intoxicated, you're not in the right mind to do so. There are people, no, I know what I'm doing when I'm drunk, I know what I'm doing when I'm high, I know what I'm doing when I'm this. You may, but you're not.
Drunk.
Yeah.
You can't drive drunk.
Yeah.
Because your ability to make decisions is marred because you're intoxicated.
Right.
You can't get married drunk. You can't get blood drunk. You
I
can't get
can't
tattoos
do
drunk. And so let's look at all the things you cannot do, on all the decisions that are responsible decisions you're not allowed to do under the influence of a drug or alcohol.
But in a situation like in this scenario where both the woman and the man were both very intoxicated, can, just because she woke up and didn't feel good about it, does that give her the right to say, I was intoxicated, he took advantage of me, even though both of them, you know, like both of them, they may not have given consent to either one, but they ended up having sex.
It makes it all at the end of the day extremely challenging.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if the consent was there.
The reason I can't go with that, just as you say, when you can't get married, you can't operate a vehicle, but I can be drunk, I can cross the street, I can shoot a firearm, right? Like I can do these things as well. So just because it doesn't fit that parameter doesn't mean it doesn't fit another parameter. So I can't use that to justify that action. Like I want to use those analogies to justify that action. So I understand it and I get it. However, if we both drunk, again, rape is always, leans towards the side of women, and favors the side of women. So if we both drunk, we both passed out, and we both intoxicated, and then she wake up. Like if he woke up and be like, "Oh, I gotta report this, I got raped," then people gonna look at it like, "What?" Like and that's how it is. Like that's the society we live in.
That moves on to our next scenario. Okay, so we did talk. Yeah.
Now I'm gonna say.
All right, so y'all ready? Y'all ready for this one? Okay. So Jeremy goes on a date with Marcy. Marcy slips something into Jeremy's drink, and the next morning Jeremy realizes that he had sex while he was unconscious. Clearly, that's rape.
Right.
But once again, back to what you said, if he goes forth and say, hey, you know, I was raped, you're not gonna look at him.
Let me can I pose this question to you? Miss Monique? Let me pose this question. When is the last high-powered, glorified case that you heard in the media of a woman raping a man?
Why does that have to be high powered and glorified?
No, because they do it to men.
Right.
You can,
I don't, my HC ought to do high powered and glorified.
No.
I do every day.
No, I'm just
So
saying.
how often do you hear about the cases?
Right.
We service 26,000 people a year. None of them are high powered and glorified.
No, but just general. I'm talking about based on propaganda and mass media. When have you ever heard? No, I understand that. But we established that.
Exactly.
But I'm asking, have you ever heard of a high-profile case when a woman raped a man? Because I can turn around and say, have you heard of a high-profile case
So
when they said a man raped a woman? And yes, it's
What
countless.
does that have to do with the situation?
Because based on it, she's asked a question about, Jeremy being raped by Marcy.
By Marcy.
Jeremy being raped by Marcy. When Jeremy goes to report this, how is it perceived? Because propaganda is a real thing. It's a real tool. So, and when Jeremy goes to report that, is it taken serious?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
You go
I
to the
think
right
what
side.
the
Goes to 300 East Hunting Park in North Philadelphia
Mhm.
and speaks with Special Victims Unit. It'll be taken seriously
Right.
because it happens. Non-high profile, non-propaganda, men, women, children, LGBTQ, rape and sexual assault.
So why is it that when a woman is raped, it's, oh my God, we have to dig into this, we have to figure it out. But for men, it's harder to prove that a woman raped a man.
It's not harder to prove. It's harder because of how we're socialized in our world, regardless of race, religion. We are socialized that there's a power and authority that are given to men that women don't have. And so we're socialized that men are men and men do specific things and women are a little more passive, particularly with sexual behavior. And so we don't even see that. How is that possible that a man can be raped and taken advantage of and beaten or domestic violence by someone that's a woman? And it is possible, and it does happen.
I think there's just a stigma around it, like you're saying. We're socialized to
Yes.
think, and we're socialized to think like if a man, like I feel like I've seen this on TV shows and stuff where they've tried to tackle the topic of a man being raped by a woman or a man saying, I believe I was sexually assaulted by a woman, and the men are right. Like if he went to like his boys and was like, man, like I don't know what happened, but if the guy, his friends were like, what do you mean? Like you had sex, good for you, like
It was rough and it was good.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, you should be glad you had an aggressive woman. Like, that's great. And so I think that may play into reasons why men don't report as much. So it's not saying that doesn't happen as often,
Absolutely.
but men don't want to report it because they think that, again, that people aren't going to take them seriously. People aren't going to say, that's not, man, you got some. That's not, that's not sexual assault. That's not rape. So I do think I completely agree with you. I think it's something that we need to address, that it's still rape, it's still sexual assault, it's still, and even like you said, domestic violence. I think that's another really big issue. That's a different topic, but that's another really big issue again of it being weighted more on the women's side and not really justifying the fact that it can happen to men too, and that their stories and their reports need to be heard just as much as women's reports are.
So let's ask you a question. All right, Mike. So your journey, okay, you go on this date and Marcy slips something in your drink. And the next morning you realize that you had sex while being unconscious. Would you report that?
Honestly, yeah, I feel like if I didn't report it, it would just be something that weighed on my mind for a little bit. And whatever course of action I would choose to take off of that just depends on how I was feeling emotionally. Because I've never been in a situation like that, so I can't replicate those feelings. But I definitely feel like the first step would be, like talking out with my four. One, realize what happened, kind of like really put it together, like to at least be 95% sure that this is what happened, and then like go talk to my friends about it, family about it, and then take the necessary steps to, report it, so that way, one, people can realize that this stuff does happen, and then two, the more reported cases there are, we can work towards I guess like a society where we think where the idea of a man getting sexually assaulted isn't so
How about you, Tyler?
I'm not recording.
high profile
You're not
cases.
I'm gonna tell you. Again, it's circumstantial too, because apparently Jeremy and what's her name, Marcy. They have a relationship. They have some type of relationship, right? So like.
No. They went on a date. It could have been their first date. It could have been their second date. They probably just met each other. So in this situation, you're Jeremy. Okay, we're gonna take Jeremy and Marcy out of the equation. This situation happened to you.
Okay.
Would you report this situation?
High profile cases.
No, it's not high profile. It's circumstantial, in my opinion. Like, it's circumstantial. Like, if it's the first date and we go on, if this is the first date and I never knew her from a can of paint, then yes, I'm reporting this. However, if we went out a couple times and this takes place and I know who she is, like, this is a conversation that can be had.
Many of our rapists are repeat rapists. So Jeremy is male number 7
To Marcy.
to Marcy.
Right.
So many of our rapists, when we don't report, we are leaving a serial rapist on the street. And so now it's your brother is next, right? Or your sister is next.
Does past consent constitute for current consent?
No.
Consent is every single time you need consent. Every single time. Doesn't matter if I gave it to you yesterday, if I gave it to you this morning and something's happening later on, I still need to give you consent every single time.
It's something that needs to be refreshed. Kind of like you can't pay for parking one
Exactly. Trying to park there tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that needs to be done every time, you know, you're engaging in that act.
Agreed. That's definitely agreed upon.
Regardless of relationship though too, because we were hitting on this earlier. Even in a marriage, I personally feel, you know, I'm not really sure about the laws on this, but I know that at some point there was a switch over to where it's saying that legally you can't be raped by your husband or your wife, because I know at a point it wasn't illegal.
Right.
But I know that at some point that did shift. But I feel like even if we are married, if I am completely not giving my consent, reporting that as rape. If I feel the need to, if I feel like I'm in danger, I'm reporting that as rape, even if you are my husband.
Absolutely.
So, follow through with that. 'Cause I feel you. Wanda, how do you feel? How do you feel about this?
Regardless, even if you're not in a relationship and it's somebody you used to talk to, and, you know, they come in town and they say, you know, can I hang out? You can hang out, but, you know, we can talk. That's about it.
Yeah, that's all over.
Okay, a husband and a wife. Every single day, we're together. You're asking me, we just had sex last night. My husband wants to have sex again today. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He's going to come in every time he wants to have sex. Hey, babe, I want to have sex. What about the sporadic? What about the spontaneous? How do you do that? Now, and then, would it be rape if I don't feel like it? My husband feels like it. I don't say anything, though. It's just like, all right, you know, whatever. Because that happens.
Saying no means no. Like, and,
But I didn't say no.
Okay.
Should read her body language.
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's written all over your face.
Right.
It's not just a song. And so your body language. And so it's there. And so the consent, we want it to be verbal. But sometimes in those relationships that are long-term relationships, like a marriage or whatever, we have weight. You have a weight. And in that way, you know that consent was given.
Right.
You also know that, you know, or if it's just a no, not today, not tonight, then that's that no.
Got you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You got something you want to add?
Yes, I see it.
Getting married and you understand everything that comes with marriage, you should have that conversation. Like, if he say to you, me and you about to get married, right? And I say to you, you know, when we get married, what's yours is mine and what's mine is yours, right? And you be like, I mean everything. Like the whole nine, your body, your money, everything. And you agree to that. and you agree to that. And then one morning I wake up and I'm ready and you be like, oh, I'm not ready. Too bad. Right? Like, and it sounds crazy and it sounds immoral, but if I told you, like you said earlier, but listen, but if you said this earlier, if you said terms and conditions, and that was the terms and my conditions of getting married to you, right? Then you agreed to that. Now, can you get out the contract? You can, but then.
And with that comes a consequence.
And with that comes a consequence. So, and if I left the marriage, you like, was it really that? Like you weighing it on the weighing scale now. You weighing the alternative motives. So I can't really sit there and be like, like it's a thing that came with it because I think all men think that. Like if you get married tomorrow, right? You're gonna be like, oh man, like this is my wife. Like if it has to go down, it can go down. You're not thinking that. I'm asking you. If that's not what you think.
I think that's not marriage.
I said again, like the parking reference. That consent needs to be renewed every time.
You can't. Let me ask you a question. You can't guarantee that. So there's no such thing as lifetime parking passes.
I mean, there is.
Okay, so marriage should be a lifetime parking
No,
pass.
but
I'm not doing it every day. Like I'm not with that. Like whenever you feel, like ask me first, and if I say okay, cool, we made that agreement there, and then proceeded into it. But to go into it and then act like I'm going into the unknown once I get married, that's far fetched.
We can agree
that it is
that it's still very circumstantial and it is, either way it's immoral.
Yes.
Either way, so we all can agree to that, but the way we look at it and our interpretations on it is very different. You're messing around with someone and it's a proven fact. I'm gonna repeat that. You're messing around with someone and it's a proven fact. You didn't know the person was underage. The parents found out and decide they want to press charges for rape of a minor. Should that be considered rape?
Yes.
Yeah. Hands down, it's rape.
Yeah, I'm 22. I'm in college right now. In order for you to be underage, you had to be at least like 16,
17.
Yeah, 17. So one, you don't even have to be a rocket scientist. You just have to think like, all right, like this person's not in college. They're probably in high school. You don't even have to look at age. Just look at like the things around them. Yeah. Do they still? Yes, so they're in high school. They still live with their parents.
Well, what about that person who lies about their age? What about that little girl who, the fake ID? What about the little girl who got the bundles and makeup is on sweet?
You can lie about that stuff, but I feel like if you're at least having some sort of conversation with at least a little bit of substance in it.
It was like it doesn't. Adults that fit the role of manager at McDonald's.
At 17?
Yes.
So
I can attest to that, yes.
That to me is good. It's hopefully the fact that the person was absolutely, honestly unaware will come up in some type of, because they've gone to court, right? Because they want to file charges.
They're filing charges.
So that conversation will hopefully come up in deposition, because depending upon the age difference, right? So if I look at the age I tell people I am and underage, right? There's a huge difference in level of conversation that is going to take place between a 17-year-old and a 22-year-old. That difference of conversation may not be great enough to get it, and so it's absolutely reasonable that someone can be lied to for a long period of time.
So in this situation, who is to blame? Is the child to blame, the parents to blame, or the person who is unaware to blame in this situation?
I feel like the child.
Yeah, I feel like the child is. I personally feel like if we're talking about a 4 to 5 year difference, and we're talking about it's been proven that the older person in the situation did not know, had no reason to doubt that this person was underage and they had sex, and now the parents are pressing charges. I feel like that should not be rape.
There's no one place where blame goes.
Right.
There are several places where blame goes. I was on chaperoning on a school trip last year with Great Adventures, with middle school girls. Went to the ladies' room and watched an entire metamorphosis take place in the mirror of the girls' room. I'm standing there like this. My daughter
Whole
will.
different person.
Now this was nothing like the outfit, the schoolgirl outfits they left the house in. Nothing. Bags packed. They came out with full makeup, looked like Sephora on the counter in the girls' room in the adventure. And so I can't be responsible for that.
Right.
That's what some people do. And so to some degree, mom, dad, whoever's raising the child has a responsibility. But everybody in that situation has a level of responsibility. Yeah.
I agree. Unlawful sexual activity carried out forcibly under threat of injury against someone who is underage or incapable of giving a valid consent. You being the executive
Yes,
director
yes.
of Women Organized Against Rape,
Yes.
what cases do you see frequently come across your desk on an everyday basis?
Primarily, they are women sexually assaulted by male. And then the second type of case would be children assaulted by someone that they know. And then men, and then transgender. So that's kind of like the order that I see in the office.
Based on the scenarios that I put all of us in and the questions that I asked us, do you feel like sexual assault could be prevented? Do you feel that it's something that we can avoid? If so, how? How do we prevent these situations from occurring?
There are some things that we can do around protecting ourselves and potentially reducing our personal risk. There are things we can do for other people. And so if we are watching a situation go down, we have a responsibility, I think, to protect our community. And so if I'm going out with my girls, I'm gonna make sure that all my girls come back. Or if I'm leaving early because I'm bored, which is usually the case, that either we're all leaving, right? We're all leaving, or I'm doing individual check-ins, and we're gonna have some type of plan, and I'm gonna check in later. And if I'm hanging with it's the same thing, there's a plan around safety.
It's a lot of people who've dealt with sexual assault, who are victims, who don't come forward because of self-blame, embarrassment, and many other reasons. What advice would you give to that person who is afraid to come forth?
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. We can get through this. And so it's kind of like, even though that person doesn't know me, I work with a phenomenal team at the organization, and we can help you get through that and navigate the systems and navigate self and the trauma so that you can get through it and do what you need to do.
If you or anyone you know have been a victim to sexual assault, please reach out to the Women's Organized Against Rape 24-hour hotline. Thank you all so much for joining me on this Real Talk. And until next time on BloomPhilly.com.